Thanks for tuning in to another show in the Next Reel family of film podcasts.
Want to skip those ads and get early access?
Become a member at truestory.fm/join and discover all the other great perks that come with it.
I'm Pete Wright.
And I'm Andy Nelson.
Welcome to the Next Reel. When the movie ends,
our conversation begins.
Nightcrawler is over. I'd like to think if you're seeing me, you're having the worst day of your life.
That's the other thing you always say to me every time we see each other.
That's not the thesis to the film. I don't know what is. Nightcrawler, Andy, it's the second of our season. It's the second of our Platformed Lives series, and it was a delight to watch this movie again. Oh my God, Leo Bloom. Not a good guy, Leo Bloom.
Isn't it Lou? Lou Bloom.
Why do I call him Leo Bloom? Because I think Leo is actually a better, more
But then
rhythmic.
You can't get the Lewis joke.
Lou Bloom.
Is Leo short for anything? Leonidas?
Leonard?
Oh, Leonard. Yeah, I guess. That's a little more common.
Linus?
Leonidas.
Leonidas, his friend Ozymandias. I think we're doing fine. So, had this hit you watching it this round? You're already a fan of this movie.
Already a fan, absolutely. I think we've mentioned a number of times over the course of our show that we're both fans of the Gilroys, the brothers Gilroy. As a trio, they're all doing interesting things in the film industry, right? Like we've talked about, did we talk about Dan already? I think when we talked about The Bourne Legacy, I believe, because he worked on the screenplay for that. We've certainly talked about Tony. I don't know if we've talked that much about their brother, John, who edits, but he's certainly another part of this project as he's, they're all kind of doing their different things in the film industry. But I just think they're such smart storytellers and filmmakers, and this is such a dark glimpse into just kind of like America and media and audience consumption. And I think that it's just I loved it when I first saw it. It's a hard film. I haven't watched it since, but revisiting it, I actually was surprised how funny I also thought it was. And this is actually not as hard a watch as I had painted in my head. I was really impressed with kind of how darkly comedic I found this story.
It was interesting because I did my time in local news, and I was, for a long time, was the guy holding the camera, but for a news truck. And we didn't go out on these kinds of things. I guess sometimes we would go out to bigger catastrophes, but, not every traffic accident got a news van. And so I was always sort of thought that, maybe they were overstating just how gross it is, the whole lifestyle. So I talk, as listeners know, I've got a kid who's an EMT, and I asked my EMT, how often do you see people like this at crime scenes? And they said, every time.
Wow.
I was like, that's horrible. They said, yeah, why? And I explained the concept of this movie, which they did not watch with me. And they said, oh, God, no, that's really gross. I did not know that there was this whole sort of economy of people, of independent people with cameras that are filming this stuff and selling it. And they said, I always just put my body in front of the victim or victims, right? I just try to get in between the cameras and the victims to hide their faces. And I think that gets to this conversation about consent, the continuation of our conversation about consent from last week, talking about what platforms do with consent. And in this one, obviously on one angle, consent is completely bypassed, right? I realize it's Leo Bloom from the producers. That's why I can't get this out of my head. Leo Bloom and Max Bialystock, and really, we're talking about Lou Bloom. Lou's whole business runs on people who can't consent, right? They're dead, they're dying, they're bleeding out. You can't get a release from them. They're essentially, they're public. They have no reasonable expectation of privacy. They're on the street. If they can get the video can be captured, it's captured. He films them because they can't refuse. the other piece that this sort of the movie deals with is the coerced consent from Nina, which is really interesting because the incentives allow her to be extorted, right? Sextortion at one point, extortion because her job is on the line, but the incentives for her in this whole economy of crisis allow her to give consent that she would not otherwise give. So the spectrum, I think, is really interesting, and where this sits in our little trio of platformed lives films. It's kind of the only one of the three that has both manufactured or incentive-based consent and completely bypassed consent. So I find it a really interesting place that this movie holds.
Well, and I think in the scope of platformed lives, I think it's going to also be valuable to talk about the actual platforms and the audiences that make these platforms worth anything, right? And Dan Gilroy said this. He said, I think to some degree, it's certainly an indictment of local television news, but I'd like to cast a wider net. Why do I watch these images? And how many of these images do I want to put into my own spirit? And I think that's the thing. It's like Truman Show. That show is popular because there's an audience that craves that and wants to continue watching the life of Truman and all the tedium that goes along with 24-hour broadcast. This movie, it's all about the public feeding on wanting to see bloody images and that feel like raw and unfiltered, and it's kind of horrifying to look at, but the audience wants it, and these producers know it, and Lou learns that, and he is there to feed on it. And I think that's an interesting element in both of these films. It'll be interesting to continue this conversation in next week's Sorry to Bother You about like how this platform exists because there's an audience that craves it and wants to feed on it.
Isn't it also interesting, though, the perspective from local news, right? Because you're right. The producers know that, the axiom, right? If it bleeds, it leads. At the same time, there is legitimate conflict in the ranks of the production team, right? Rene Russo, as the news director, has the perspective that she needs more viewers like more blood, and we have to get more blood on the air so the economy exists. But there are people around her saying, no, we have to stop doing this. This isn't the story. This is in the way of the story. And she does not, she generally does not abide by the conflict. And I think it's interesting that the movie sneaks that perspective in. I don't know how nuanced those conversations are being inside, the halls of local news right now, today in 2026.
Yeah, that's a good question. Like, I feel like the voice, I'm not sure who that, I can't remember his name, Frank, I believe, who works at the station with her, who is that sole voice of, where are our morals? Like, this is not something we should be doing. We should be asking questions like, did he break into that house to get this footage? Like, the things that you should be thinking about when you're having a situation like this present itself as a producer about what morals went into the thinking behind this stringer's capturing of these images. And it's clear because of the place that Nina's in. And it's a fascinating conversation when Lou elucidates us that he understands to her position. She's an older woman. Every 2 years, she's in a new studio, and her contract is about up at this one. She needs to prove, it's sweeps week, she needs to prove that she can get the numbers that they want, or she could potentially be out of this job and looking for another one. And he totally exploits that, and he's willing to do what he needs. And so she's willing to do what she needs in order to get the great footage and put it out there. And it's a dark story, but I think it speaks to the needs that these people are put into because of the job positions that they have.
Job positions, especially for Lou's position, right? He starts the film as a petty thief, right?
Yeah. It's not like he takes a turn into a dark road by becoming a stringer. He's always been a terrible human being.
Yeah, he's a terrible human being already. Like, his arc is he discovered that he can steal a watch pretty easily, and now he's going to start stealing people's, stories, the worst days of their lives. And that, and I think the movie paints this picture that those two things are the same, that he's still just taking for his own, for his own good. And he just found a way to be consistently profitable at it.
Additionally, what makes Lou all the more frightening and disturbing is he is clearly somebody who reads, every Tony Robbins book, who studies all of these online business classes, and like he has all of the sayings that he's kind of gleaned from all these different courses that he's doing, that he's repeating and living by, and he's created his own, like he's frightening at how good he is at all of these different things he's doing. Like, he absorbs the information, he adapts himself to this new information, and he improves himself. Like, he's constantly working to improve himself, make himself better. It's just he has a complete lack of moral fiber. And so that's what makes him extra frightening, because with the lack of moral fiber and that incredible business acumen that he kind of continues nurturing and growing, he grows into continue like the worst version of this possible person.
Yeah, I'm really glad you brought that up, because I didn't have that in my notes, but it's really worth acknowledging that he took the stuff that millions of people digest. I don't know what percentage of those people actually ingest and actually digest. I'm using a lot of the gests. That sounds ridiculous. Actually make it a part of their lives. Like, I think most people read those things and take pieces of it that work for them. He takes the entire outline and integrates it into his own identity. And this is what happens when, I don't think Tony Robbins is out there saying, hey, if you do this, you'll be a better criminal and a worse human being, but you'll be super efficient at it. But that's what happens, right? This is what happens when you put good intention behind ill will. And he does. The movie demonstrates he gets better and better at building an organization. I think the only lesson we are to take out of his next step in the closing of this film is that he's building actively the organization that he set his sights on in the very beginning. When he first hired Riz Ahmed, his eyes were on building an organization and doing it in a way that follows up on the legacy of the stuff that he spends all day in integrating into his life. All of the self-help stuff, the build a better self, build a better business kind of stuff. So I don't know, if I'm sitting in his seat, I'm like, hey, this is a very successful and land of opportunity kind of story. And it's also, it speaks the worst that there is an incentive structure that allows him to end this movie, the worst guy we know in this movie. And he now has 3 teams in 3 different vans that are all branded and taking off in different directions into the night. That's so gross. That's so gross.
It just speaks to kind of the darkness of the character. One of my favorite scenes in the film actually is when he is early, like selling himself to Nina, and why he's so skilled and brilliant. And the thing that he does, which I think is fascinating, is the thing that Dan Gilroy, along with his actors, but he has that scene play almost like, and I think this might have been actually what he said, but he's talking to Nina, and it's almost like a marriage proposal. Like, it's a pitch. The way that he's pitching to her and describing himself and his beliefs and the way that he handles his relationships, like it's a fascinating glimpse into his psyche and how he views everything in his world, and it's all just these transactions that he's creating, and that develops into the more frightening version of the relationship with Nina when he says, "I like you." This is after that date at the Mexican restaurant, and he's like, "I like you, and we're going to start sleeping together, and this is why you're going to do what I ask you to do. This is why you're going to pay me the amount of money that I want. Like it suddenly shifts into the most frightening possible of conversations. And it's because, again, he's adapted himself to all of these different sales techniques and pitches and everything that he's been learning. And it's truly frightening.
Yeah, everything has become so matter of fact. And all he does the entire movie is find leverage. And I think on Jake Gyllenhaal, I'm already a fan of Jake Gyllenhaal. I think he does generally really, really good stuff. This may be my favorite Gyllenhaal experience, and I'm a fan of the breadth. Like, I liked his Mysterio. I liked his weird criminal in Prisoners. Like, that he is
his detective.
His detective, right.
Yeah.
Prisoners. I feel like the scope of what he can do is really great. And this movie, I think, captures all of the stuff that I like about him the most.
And how he does a great job of performing where he doesn't blink very much.
Yeah. Right.
And he's got such great eyes that get so big. And when he's already losing weight for the role, like eating kale salad every day and running 15 miles a day, whatever, he's so gaunt in this film. And so his eyes seem extra large when he just doesn't blink and he has those stares. I mean, it's amazing what he puts into his performance, both emotionally and physically.
Well, and what apparently they were going for is his Lou Bloom as a coyote, right? He sort of manifested that, as you say, the gaunt look, that he's just living on the fringes, surviving on other people's sort of carrion. I think he just nails that experience for me.
Oh, it's just fantastic. We'll definitely talk more about him and everything when we get to the awards, because the fact that he wasn't nominated for an Oscar for this is that's a great example of disappointment with the Academy for not getting him nominated for this. It's amazing. But sometimes dark performances, just as great as they can be, they're the sorts of performances that aren't going to get the Oscar attention.
Mm-hmm. Before we take our first break, can we just talk about the last major scene, because the movie is broken up in Lou building his business, and he's doing that through exchanges with emergency services. He makes enough money to buy a new car. He does the things you need to do to slowly but surely improve his station in this economy of tragedy. And so we see him at traffic accidents. We see him at stabbings, whatever. We see him actually at the accident of one of his competitors, late great Bill Paxton, wraps his van around a pole, and Lou covers that just like he covers everything else, because he caused the accident, and he's aware of the meta nature of the experience. But then we see him at the house, the murder house, and he captures enough footage. First, obviously, he goes in the house before the authorities arrive, and captures all of the bodies, the murdered bodies throughout the house. He also captures the license plates and the faces of everybody, of the criminals as they get away, and then withholds that from the police. So it's almost like every single step. I should add, the other important building block is he gets to that first traffic accident and realizes the framing is off before the authorities get there. So he moves the body so that it is more cinematic. So we know he is not an authentic agent of coverage for local news here, but it's that final piece where he didn't, I want to say, just move a body. He literally withholds evidence in an active investigation so that he can use it and create his own news later, when he follows the truck and calls the cops and stages cameras around an event that he knows is going to be combustible. And spoiler, it is. That final scene, that final sort of payoff in the crossfire, actually, it's not even in the crossfire, in the very end, they think everybody's dead. Our Riz Ahmed's character, Rick, is killed, and Lou does nothing about it. How does this climactic final sequence, as the sort of exclamation point at the end of our time with Lou, how does that work for you?
I mean, I think it is the culmination of everything that we've grown to expect with him as a character, as far as the way that he thinks, the desire that he has to capture. Like, he's learned what makes good footage. He has totally figured all this out. And as he tells Rick at a certain point earlier in the film, he's just like, we just want to, we're going to call the cops, but at the right time, when they're at the right place to make it for an interesting scene. And so he waits until they're at this diner and does it there, where there are other potential victims. As it turns out, they're actual victims of the gunfight that ends up ensuing between these two criminals and the police. All of this stuff makes for a more genuinely interesting footage that he can cut together, because he has Rick get out of the car and go down to get another angle. So they have it all from these two different angles. And I think on top of all of this, it shows how Lou thinks as a businessman. And he's so pissed at Rick for having, as he thinks, exploited him because Rick has figured out kind of how Lou thinks and what Lou's intentions are, that he essentially blackmails him for half the money. He says, I want half of what you're going to get out of this job. You're not going to pay me just $75 a night. You're going to pay me half of this potential, $20,000, $30,000 that he's going to sell the footage for. Because of that, in the middle of all of this footage and everything, when Lou, they've done the whole car chase, the criminal has crashed his car along with the police car. He knows that the guy's alive, but he tells Rick that he's dead. Go in there, get a shot. While Lou stands back and films the entire thing of his guy getting shot by this guy. I mean, it's so dark, and it speaks to the place that Lou is as this dark businessman who has spun this world and refuses to let anyone exploit him. He's going to be the one who comes out on top. And he does so. He uses this moment to get back at Rick. He doesn't care. He now has great footage of Rick dying, and that's how dark this person is. I think it's a fitting climax to how this film has been building.
And Riz Ahmed through the entire film is really wonderful, right? He's super understated. He's you can tell he's a shamed introvert, right? He doesn't have a lot going for him, and he's really taking a step to take this job because he thinks it's something that is more than it is, and then it becomes vastly more than it ever was. And he's being asked to do things and is being compensated, a little bit to do things that are outside of of what he would, I get the feeling, would be his sort of ethical norm, until he realizes what his own price is, right? Like that scene in the car where he says, I want half, is him coming to terms with the fact that, yes, he's going to do these things, and he knows already that they're wrong, and he needs to be compensated at that level in order for him to be able to make sense of it in his head and heart. And I think that's a really great turn for Ahmed. I think he's such a nuanced actor, and he's done some really, really interesting things over his career. And this one is maybe one of my favorites of his too.
Yeah, he's fantastic. Really is. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, but first you can find the show on YouTube, and you can join us live when we record. We will even take your questions in the post-show chit-chat, and members get the full post-show conversation and always know what to listen to next. Subscribe to The Next Reel on YouTube, but the link to this episode is in the show notes. We'll be right back.
Andy, can I ask you something?
Always, Pete. What's up?
You know that feeling when you walk into a great video store, or for the younger crowd, scroll through a really well-curated streaming library and you realize you could just stay there? Like, this place has everything you didn't know you were looking for.
I know exactly that feeling. It's one of the reasons we started making these shows.
Right, because that's what the Next Reel family of film shows actually is. They're not just shows you keep up with. They make a place you come back to. Whether you're working your way through the Next Reel's deep catalog of film-by-film conversations, catching up with the film board on whatever's in theaters right now, or going deep on horror tropes with Sitting in the Dark.
Diving into a CinemaScope episode on a genre you've always meant to explore, like screwball comedy or Italian giallo. Or sitting down with movies we like to hear how a cinematographer or costume designer thinks about a film you already love. It's all here.
And honestly, a lot of our listeners have been using it exactly that way for years, which is why, if any of this sounds like how you actually spend your time browsing, discovering, going back to something you bookmarked 6 months ago, we'd love for you to consider becoming a member.
For $5 a month or $55 a year, you get early ad-free access to every episode across all 5 shows a full week before they go public. You also get exclusive bonus content that doesn't live anywhere else.
And more than that, you're directly supporting 5 independent shows made by a small independent team who genuinely love doing this. Membership is the most direct way to make sure we can keep the library open.
Think of it as your library card. Head to truestory.fm/join. That's truestory.fm/join and sign up today.
The next real family of film shows. The conversation is already here. Come find your next film. So every time I think about this movie, I learn something new about the Gilroy family cinematic industrial complex.
Okay.
So, right, like all the Gilroys, right, like the whole family, I think, is on it. Rene Russo's married to one of them.
Yeah, she's married to Dan.
Robert Elswit is Academy Award-winning cinematographer for There Will Be Blood, and he's on it. But he's also Gyllenhaal's godfather. Is that true?
That is correct. Yeah, because he has worked with Jake's dad when they were younger.
Wow. I mean, is that it? Am I missing any more? There might be, or probably more that we know that are unreported.
Those are the things that I know. Yeah, that we've got all 3 brothers working on this. Dan's directing and wrote it. Tony's producing, and John edited the film. And then, yeah, Jake is working with his godfather.
Big family affair. I want to talk about Elswit because there's something really interesting about his camera and building this city that is somewhere between that kind of gritty, like no one would ever want to live here cityscape that we often get, and on the complete other end of the spectrum, Miami Vice, right? Like everything is super saturated, succulent neon and brightly colored. This film kind of exists right in the middle, and it makes me not want to not live there, but still be kind of repulsed at what goes on in the city that we do have. I think it's a really interesting landscape. What did you think of the camera?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's great. It's a beautifully digitally shot night film that reminded me a lot of actually Collateral is the thing that I thought of quite a bit when I looked at this. And also there are elements that I think of with Drive that also tap into just some of the night driving and everything like that. I think that it fits well for kind of creating this space and this world. And I like what he captures, both the seedier side of the city as well as the kind of the more ritzy, glamorous side of the city. I just think it's beautifully captured across the board. And what I love about it is, by the time later in the film when Lou has earned enough money to buy himself a fantastic car, that it's bright red, and it just pops all the more in a lot of these scenes because of that contrast.
Yeah. Yeah, which is, it's such an interesting choice, that car, first of all, because cinematically it looks incredible. Narratively, it's a reminder that Lou is still is fueled by a really kind of primal, hyper-masculine image of himself. Like, I think if he were truly 100% invested in his new life, he would not buy that car. That car makes him stand out in a way that probably is not what, I think Bill Paxton actually says something about it, right? Like, nice car, but you could tell it's not the car that one should be driving around in. I think Lou looks at it as, it's going to get me where I need to go faster than everybody else. Very, very practical. But I think that he's machining that justification because it's not. It's a weird choice.
It is bold for sure. And I think Rick says that later in the film when they are, again, he's manufacturing this moment at the end, and they are tailing the criminals in their SUV. Rick is saying, don't get so close. This is a very easy vehicle to spot. Like, they'll notice this bright red car tailing them. And I think that speaks to just the thinking behind that. And that's I probably something that has never occurred to Lou in all of this, is the fact that, oh yeah, if I'm actually tailing somebody, they can probably pinpoint that bright red car that's behind them over and over again.
And it's one of the things that isn't in all of the self-help literature that he's taking on, right? The specifics of this job, which are, you want to blend in as best you can. And Paxton actually, gives him the opportunity to learn from a veteran in the field, and he turns it down because of ego and his own sort of inflated expectation of what he's going to get out of it. And it turns out he learns the wrong lesson, because he ends up being successful in spite of turning down the offer from his own Yoda, which I think is another interesting turn. But anyway, all of that is to say that Lou Bloom's Los Angeles is shot beautifully and compellingly, and that final car chase climax sequence is a really fun one. Like, it's fun to watch as they just careen down Los Angeles streets.
Yeah, and then crash, and I mean it plays, everything about that just really plays so well. It's great. Going back to the relationship with Nina, I want to talk just a little bit more about that, because this is an interesting story where Lou is essentially our steadfast character through the film, and kind of like changing those around him and pulling them down with him, really. And Nina is an interesting one because, again, he exploits her, he sexploits her. We've kind of already talked about that and how all of that plays. But then even after all those pitches and everything, that final scene between the two of them after this crash, when he's showing her the footage, and it is like a post-coital conversation between the two of them as this footage is playing behind them, and the way that they're just looking at each other is just like raw passion, and the words that they're saying are all about like the sale of the footage and all of this, but it's really like this post-coital moment where it's just the two of them head over heels for each other and what they're able to achieve by working in this symbiotic relationship. That's a dark journey that Nina ends up going on. Like, she ends up in a dark place by the end of this film, and it'll be interesting to see. I mean, yeah, maybe she'll get through sweeps week and she'll get a new contract and be able to kind of continue her work, but where does she go from here? Like, does it continue down this dark road or what?
Yeah, she's in an interesting spot, because she becomes kind of our avatar for the marketplace of human catastrophe, right? Like, he films and sells this stuff because there's a market for it. She's the buyer, we're the audience, and what he is doing in his relationship is sort of systematically ensuring that she has completely lost all of her empathy. And we see that dynamic in the newsroom, and we see, I think, when she is, I think you're right, when she starts to get physically, sensorially aroused. And there are sequences where she's watching these things, and they have this two-shot on their faces, kind of silhouetted in front of the wall of monitors in the control room. And I've seen the movie a couple of times, and I'm still not sure if they're just going to kiss in the control room. Right.
It totally feels like that. It's coming.
Yeah. I think it's really interesting to turn her job, her sort of principles, into a victim for he's spreading his kind of aesthetic of the world like cancer, and she is infected.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Can we talk a little bit about the ending of this film? Because if there's any spot that I have some issues with, it's the way the film ends. I don't know if you have any of the same issues.
Well, I don't know. You're kind of a contagion to me, so go ahead and tell me.
And again, if you haven't seen this, why have you listened this far? But certainly we're going to be spoiling more here. The very end of the film, And this is like after this moment of the two of them in that it's looking lovingly at each other while the footage plays. The detectives show up at the police or at the station, and they want to talk more to Lou. They try to get him to pull the footage, or the studio to pull the footage. Like, there's a lot of stuff going on. They bring Lou down, and she has this conversation. This is our detective has a conversation with Lou about the fact that he is withholding stuff. He let his partner die. He filmed his partner die. She thinks that, and rightfully, although he denies it, that he captured the images, the footage of the criminals and knew who they were, and it was able to set this whole thing up. And she tells him, she's like, if somebody did that, it would be murder. But he gets off. Like, he goes. Like, the detectives are clearly pissed at him about all of this. And the film ends in probably the darker version of the story, and perhaps the more cynical version of the story, where he gets away with it and is able to now grow his empire. As we see the end of the film, he now has 2 vans that he and his team can run about with. He's got 3 new employees that are working for him, and he has his little speech he gives to the end, the dark comment that won't ask you to do anything I wouldn't do myself, which we already know.
Grim.
Yeah, it's very grim. And then we see the 2 vans take off to head different directions in LA. So he wins. It's a dark victory for this story, because this criminal is now out and about making even more money and capturing even darker footage. Who knows, like, doing more dark things. That's the journey that the story takes, where it ends on a very dark path. But does it feel authentic? Or does it feel like a writer-director ended because he wanted the more cynical version of the story, as opposed to what I think is the more realistic version of the story, is that the detectives, assuming all of this about Lou, would probably get a warrant, take all of his technology, all of his computers, all of his drives, the cards with all the files on it, and use all of that as evidence to potentially prosecute this guy. Like, does that seem like a more realistic version? Like, I ask myself at the end of this, why are they just letting him get away with all of this? Does that something that strikes you at all?
Well, okay. Yeah. I mean, I guess if we're living in the land of the real, then the police probably would have more agency over the scenario, and they would not be deterred by the station's attempts to protect Leo, right? Because they know, right? The reality of our in-universe conversation is the station knows that Leo is an asset, and they're going to need him, and they need to use him, and they need to continue to get all of the resources that he provides. And I think that the police would care less about the station's interpretation of their level of ability to protect this guy. But I don't have a problem with it, because I think it's telling 2 important parts of the story. One is that it's answering kind of the initial setup question, which is, can these, how do these guys survive? These, unethical stringers who are just out for the cash, how do they survive? And what does it look like when Nina's role, when the station kind of loses its own sense of empathy because of, commercial incentives? But also, what happens when the authorities themselves are actually neutered? Because that is a statement that the film kind of makes, but doesn't actually have time to answer, which is the detectives don't really have the resources that they need to deal with everything that has happened over the course of this movie, and they probably don't understand it well enough. And crime is ongoing, and things are complicated. And I think the movie is talking about how the nature of our capitalist tendencies gets in the way of our ethical and moral duty to one another. And the police are the vessel for that conversation. And the fact that they have it happen in the 3rd act, and then it sort of, peters out, so to speak, is a testament both to that point and also the fact that we're not in the real. Like, that would be a different movie I think. And I hate this character. I hate that he exists, and I needed him to win. Right? Because I needed the dark ending.
Well, it fits. I mean, it fits for the story that Gilroy is telling. It absolutely makes sense to kind of go down this road. And this is my struggle because, I mean, yeah, I agree with everything that you just said. But at the same time, it's like, if I'm going to buy into what he's creating as this world, knowing that it's a situation where police officers died because of his actions. I mean, I've seen, this is, again, my thinking is based on way too many movies and TV shows and probably not enough real life, but cops care about cops. And when cops die, they're going to do everything they can to put anyone involved to justice. And the fact that Lou orchestrated this entire thing and they don't go after him, I just think that's a little bit of a miss. And I think that Gilroy could have found a way to make that work where the cops weren't able to get him for something, and then we could still have that ending.
Is there any part of it, and I haven't thought this through very well, but it just occurs to me now that had Lou not orchestrated it, the actual criminals in the first place would not have been caught. I think that's the position the movie is taking, right? So Lou did orchestrate this whole thing and cops died, but they wouldn't have gotten the guys at all if it weren't for Lou.
Well, you're assuming that he then wouldn't have turned in the footage revealing their license plate.
Totally. I mean, the fact that Lou is a part of this ecosystem is the statement, maybe, that the film is making. The fact that, in some small way, there is a universe in which authorities recognize that this guy is a useful tool. And sometimes using that tool comes at a great cost.
I think that's a stretch.
I didn't tell you it was a great idea,
no.
Andy. I told you it was a now idea.
I know. I like it. But again, if cops hadn't died in the situation, like if there had been a shootout and the cops were able to get the guys and the cops were pissed at Lou for having orchestrated all of this, but they still got the guys and no one else was harmed, then yeah, I can see that being a situation where the cops are like, okay, we're really pissed at you, but you're serving a purpose. Because police die, because other people in this diner die, I think that's the thing that for me makes it harder to buy. And it's a complaint I haven't heard from many, but that's the thing that for me sticks with me and it makes it harder for me to really, when I get to the end of this film, I'm just like, I don't know why he didn't end up getting prosecuted.
Andy, you have just so thoughtfully articulated why this is not going to be a 5-star movie for you. I just want to commend you on that. And I wish that you had better arguments for all of the other movies that have stars fall. That was really perfect.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah. I guess I gave myself away. Oh my goodness. Yeah, no, but regardless, I still love it. I still love this dark ending of the film. I think it plays well. And we've talked about kind of the cast and everything, but I think it's worth just shouting out Rene Russo and how amazing she is in this role as Nina. I love her so much in this woman who's stuck in this position where she has to make all these compromises. And I think she plays that so well.
I'm glad you brought that up because when was the last time we talked about Rene Russo? Do you remember? Have we talked about Rene Russo?
I would probably say it was in movies in the remakes series for the Thomas Crown Affair remake.
Yeah.
That might be the only time we've talked about her because we haven't talked about Lethal Weapon series.
Yeah.
Oh, obviously, well, not here, but on Marvel Movie Minute, we've talked about her in the Thor films.
Yeah, that's true. Do you think you could take a stab at her top 4? IMDb top 4?
Well, I feel like it's going to be Thor. There's got to be at least one Thor film in there. And she's in Thor the Dark World, and she's in Avengers Endgame. I'm just going to say Thor.
Okay. So you've got Thor on the board.
I'm going to say Thomas Crown Affair.
Okay.
I'm going to say Nightcrawler.
Okay.
And I'm going to say Lethal Weapon 2.
Lethal Weapon 2. Those are your top 4.
Well, they're my 4 that I think IMDb will pick.
And you are half right. Exactly.
Okay.
Thomas Crown Affair, absolutely. Nightcrawler, absolutely. I think that's awesome, first of all.
I love it. Yeah.
The other 2, one of them, seeing it, I totally buy. I would have been right behind you on the Thor train, but none of the Thors, none of the MCU stuff gets on there.
None of the Thors, okay. Is one of them the one with the gorilla, the animals?
No. One of them is Ransom, 1996.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
I forgot she was in that. Yeah.
I know. The other one is Get Shorty.
Oh, I love that.
Right?
Oh, that's awesome.
That is the way to go, IMDb, because that's the perfect one to have on the list.
That's a great one.
It makes me want to watch that movie again right now. What a great movie that was.
Great movie. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, that's actually a solid list for her.
I know. Maybe they tweaked the algorithm. I think it actually works for Rene Russo. That's great. She's got 29 other credits as an actor, and those are the big 4. I might agree with.
What's Jake's?
Oh,
here, let me guess on Jake.
Okay, go ahead and guess on Jake. This is hard.
He's gonna be hard because he's in so many things. I'm gonna say Brokeback Mountain.
I should. He has 61 credits.
Yeah, he's got a lot.
So
I'm gonna say Brokeback Mountain.
Okay.
Spider-Man: Far From Home.
Okay.
Would Oakjaw be in there as a random one to throw in there? I would say Oakjaw and Nightcrawler.
Okay.
I feel way wrong on that one.
You're exactly the same rate as you are with Rene Russo. You got Brokeback Mountain. That's a no-brainer, right? Of course there is. Nightcrawler, you got that. That's great. And I actually like that our 2 principals from this movie actually makes their top 4. That's a great sign. This is a great film. IMDb understands that.
Is October Sky one of them?
Nope. Andy, you're gonna
Donnie Darko.
Yes, Donnie Darko. I was gonna say this is where you slap your head real hard. It's Donnie Darko, and we've already mentioned the other. It's Prisoners.
Oh, yeah. I was thinking about that when it was floating around, but
yeah.
Okay. Wow. Okay. All right.
Yep. Not bad. Just because we're playing the game right now, I want to give you one more.
Oh, is it going to be Riz Ahmed?
No, it's not. It's going to be the late, great Bill Paxton.
Oh, okay. Twisters, Apollo 13, Frailty, and I doubt it's this. What else was a real standout? Bill Paxton.
Dude, come on.
Oh, is it a simple plan?
No, stop talking.
Oh, damn it.
It is Frailty. It is Apollo 13. It is Twisters. And because you didn't get this, it's game over, man. Game over.
God. Oh, man. Yeah. That's embarrassing.
It's Aliens.
Leave Aliens off.
Private Hudson. Yeah. That's a tough one. You still did better than both the other 2, although it's not a great way to end.
Yeah, missing Aliens, man. It could have been Weird Science. I mean, you never know.
It could have been Weird Science, right? It could have been Weird Science. In this case, I think they got it right.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Anything else on your hot list here?
This is just such an impressive film. We didn't mention James Newton Howard's score, but I love that kind of electronic score that also kind of fits with Drive for me. Like so many things, just this, Drive, Collateral feel like a great trilogy of LA night films, LA driving films. Like there's just a lot of stuff going on in the stories that I think just taps into the world beautifully. And I love it. I mean, this was so much funnier than I had remembered. And so in such a dark way, but it's absolutely something I want to watch more often. I just think it's an incredible, incredible film, and more people need to be watching and talking about it.
Yeah, for sure. It is a really great film. I want to watch it with everybody, and it also makes me want to go watch Andor again because it's so cool to see Dan Gilroy's pen behind so many episodes of such an another family show, right? Like, it's a Gilroy family show.
That's a Tony show, right?
Yeah, but Dan wrote on 6 of the 8 episodes of that first season. So it's just extraordinary. So this is really great. What a fantastic film to sit in this series and to kind of be in our opening salvo of this season.
Yeah, and a really interesting one. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's move into the back half. But first, let's take a quick break.
The Next Reel is a production of True Story FM, engineering by Andy Nelson, music by Sabutan, Solus, Oriel Novella, and Eli Catlin. Andy usually finds all the stats for the awards and numbers at the-numbers.com, boxofficemojo.com, imdb.com, and wikipedia.org. Find the show and the full archive at truestory.fm. You can follow us from there too. Plus, you can find out how to become a member and go further with every episode. Check out our merch store at thenextreel.com/merch. And if your app allows ratings and reviews, please consider doing that for our show. All right, it's award season, Andy. Let's take us back and let us know. I want the whole list. I can't wait. I've got my coffee. Go.
This film did very well for itself, getting 46 wins with 126 other nominations. The one to really complain about, though, is the Oscars, where the only thing it was nominated for was Best Original Screenplay, which lost to Birdman, which, I think that's also a great film. I think between the two,
I would have given it to this.
I may pick this one, yeah. But the big one is obviously that Jake Gyllenhaal did not get nominated for anything for this one. So my question for you, Pete, is who would you bump in order to put Jake Gyllenhaal on the list? The actor nominees are Eddie Redmayne for The Theory of Everything. He's the one who won. Steve Carell in Foxcatcher. Bradley Cooper in American Sniper. Benedict Cumberbatch in The Imitation Game. And Michael Keaton in Birdman or The Unexpected Virtue of Ignorance.
Bradley Cooper
is who I would also cut. Yeah. I mean, he was fine in American Sniper. It was a solid film, but absolutely, Nightcrawler should have been in there for Jake Gyllenhaal. And I would probably pick him over Eddie Redmayne as well.
100%. Yes, that is true.
Best Picture, though, what do you think? Birdman, American Sniper, Boyhood, The Grand Budapest Hotel, The Imitation Game, Selma, The Theory of Everything, Whiplash. I would still cut American Sniper off.
I would cut American Sniper, yeah.
Yeah. It's also, they were giving up to 10, and they only gave it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
so just
that maybe is the biggest snub. But what are they doing?
Yeah, right.
Somebody at the accounting firm said we only do evensies. Has a very strong line.
It's very frustrating. Birdman won. It's a great film. I need to revisit it. Would I pick Birdman? Would I pick... Oh, man, it's also the year of Grand Budapest Hotel. I might just actually pick Grand Budapest over all things. I know you would put Whiplash.
Whiplash, man. Yeah, for me, there is no contest.
It's a tough one.
And yet, I would not put Miles Teller in Best Actor. Like, he was fantastic, but that movie is the sum of its parts. And I know that, J.K. Simmons got more notice in that movie than Teller did, but just in general, it's, the movie's combustible because of all of its parts, but take any one of them out, and I recognize there are other better performances everywhere.
Would you have put Riz Ahmed in the best supporting actor?
Yeah.
lineup?
Absolutely.
J.K. Simmons, Robert Duvall in The Judge, Ethan Hawke in Boyhood, Edward Norton in Birdman, Mark Ruffalo, Foxcatcher.
Wow. What would you drop? Ruffalo, maybe?
No. I'm trying to decide if I would add Ahmed to this lineup or not. It's a solid list here. I don't know. That's a tough one for me. Or Rene Russo, though, I would probably push to get her in the Best Actress in a Supporting Role lineup more than Riz Ahmed. Patricia Arquette won for Boyhood, Laura Dern in Wild, Keira Knightley in The Imitation Game, Emma Stone in Birdman, Meryl Streep in Into the Woods. I would drop Meryl Streep and I would put Rene Russo in here.
Yeah, that's the call.
Yeah. All right.
Well, we've solved years ago Oscars.
That's right. Over at the Saturn Awards, it was nominated for Best Thriller Film, but lost to Gone Girl. Rene Russo won for Best Supporting Actress, and Jake Gyllenhaal was nominated for Best Actor, but lost to Chris Pratt in Guardians of the Galaxy. That is a silly one to lose to.
I can't believe that exists, but it is also the Saturn Awards.
It's the Saturn Awards. Yeah, I know. And then over at the Film Independent Spirit Awards, it won Best First Feature, Best Screenplay, nominated for Best Editing, but lost to Whiplash. Best Male Lead, Gyllenhaal was nominated but lost to Michael Keaton in Birdman, and Riz Ahmed was nominated for Best Supporting Male but lost to J.K. Simmons in Whiplash. And then these were just two interesting ones. The California On Location Awards, it was nominated for the Location Team of the Year for an independent feature film, but lost to, of all things, Taken 3.
What?
I guess I didn't follow the Taken films long enough to realize that by the time you got to the third one, it was L.A., not somewhere in Europe.
They came home. Yeah, that's weird.
And then the Location Managers Guild International Awards, it was nominated for Outstanding Locations in a Contemporary Film, but lost to Wild. So, yeah, interesting set of films there.
I can totally see why it lost to Wild, though.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
That makes all the sense. All right. How to do at the box office. I'm sure you have some numbers this week.
For Gilroy's movie, he had a budget of $8.5 million, which is just under $11.4 million in today's dollars. The movie premiered at the Toronto International Film Festival September 15th, 2014, then opened wide on Halloween, October 31st, opposite Before I Go to Sleep, the limited release of Interstellar, and the 10th anniversary release of Saw. This easily took the number one spot, and it stayed in the top 10 for 3 weeks. Apparently, some of Open Road Film's viral marketing strategies paid off. I guess they did like a whole thing where they made a fake like LinkedIn profile for Lou Bloom and all sorts of things. The movie went on to earn $32.4 million domestically and $17.9 million internationally for a total gross of just under $67.5 million in today's dollars. All told, this was a massive win for everyone involved. It went on to earn almost 6 times its budget back, landing with an adjusted profit per finished minute of almost $480,000 and definitely amassed quite a following.
All right. I feel okay. I feel redeemed.
I think it's fantastic. It's such a great film. It's a tough film, but it is a funny film. It's a really interesting glimpse into a criminal's mind. One who is brilliant, who, again, feeds on that Tony Robbins style of business growth acumen, and who's completely lacking in morals. And I think the movie is all the better for it. It's such a dark story. I love it.
You know what's funny about this, about the whole conceit, is that it strikes me as completely normal that somebody who is such an aficionado of the self-help genre would name his business Video Production News. Like, that is the most banal, ridiculous name for the company. And weirdly, it's a name that sort of begs somebody who is like trying to blend in. Don't notice me, don't notice me. And then he gets that ridiculous car. I don't even know, man, anymore, this movie. It's a hodgepodge, but I love it.
Yeah, fantastic. All right, well, that is it for our conversation about Nightcrawler. Next week, we're looking at Sorry to Bother You, Boots Riley's 2018 debut feature about a black telemarketer in Oakland who discovers a shortcut to success and finds himself pulled deeper and deeper into a system that's far darker than anything he imagined. It's surreal, furious, funny, and unlike anything else in the series. We'll see you next time. Now, let's do our ratings.
Letterboxd.com, Andy. Letterboxd.com/thenextreel is where you can find our HQ page. That's where we review and rate all of the films that we talk about across the Next Reel family of film shows. What are you going to do for this one, Mr. Half Star?
That's right. I love this film. I always trip up at the ending, so it's 4.5 and a heart for me.
See if you can guess what I am.
I'm going to say you're 5 stars. 5 stars and a heart, yeah.
I am very much a 5-star. I have no excuses. I don't mind the little mental leap I have to take at the end of the movie that is decidedly not in favor of the police. Maybe that's a litmus test for my personality, but I'm okay with it. And it's a great movie. I can't wait. I already can't wait to watch it again.
Yeah, no, it's brilliant. It's such a great film.
Yeah.
Well, that averages out to 4.75, which rounds up to 5 stars and a heart anyway, Pete. So there you go.
I win.
You can find the show on Letterboxd at The Next Reel. You can find me there at Soda Creek Film, and you can find Pete at Pete Wright. So what did you think about Nightcrawler? We would love to hear your thoughts. Hop into the Show Talk channel over in our Discord community, where we will be talking about the movie this week.
When the movie ends,
our conversation begins.
Letterboxd give it, Andrew.
As Letterboxd always doeth.
Okay, my review isn't really about the film.
Okay.
It's about just life in general, and I love it, and because I think we relate to it. It's 4 star and a heart from Andrea Rose emoji. Freelancing is so scary. The only way to properly convey it in film is through a psychological thriller. Amen, Andrea. Amen.
Nice.
What do you got?
Well, I'm going to do 2 because they're similar and they're kind of related. The first is a 5 star and a heart by Sophie, who says, the only reason Jake wasn't nominated for an Oscar is because he's just like this anyway.
Oh.
I know. Well, that's followed by Lily's 4 star and a heart that says, I wouldn't be surprised if it turned out that this was a Jake Gyllenhaal biopic.
Wow.
Apparently.
Wow.
Yeah.
So much shade for Jake. Holy
Dark.
smokes.
I know.
I tell you, we're in the middle of a Marvel rewatch, the back half of Marvel, because one of my kids missed a lot of them, like from the pandemic on. And we started because we just wanted to watch the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies. And we watched a couple nights ago, we watched Far From Home. And putting that Jake side by side with just this Jake is extraordinary. Like he's clearly one of the character actors we're going to remember because they're different guys.
Yeah.
Right? He's like, he's one of those in a different class of actor for me. I think he's really terrific. All right. That's all. That's my whole pitch.
He's fantastic. I haven't seen that since it was in theaters. I should check that one out again.
It's really great. Best line, Sir, I'd love to help. I'm very strong and I'm sticky. Okay, that's it. Thanks, Letterboxd.